Hello everyone, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Keisha and today we are having a very chill, very relaxed, comfy, cozy July wrap up. I am just so tired today, but I really want to get this video out. So I'm in my cozy corner of my couch and we're just gonna have a very relaxed wrap up. So I did not read a lot of books in July, so this should not be very long at all, but I do want to talk about the 6 books because I did have some good ones in here. So 2 of the 6 books I said 6 books. There's 8 books. 2 of the 8 books I did not finish. We will talk about those, but I have some of them here with me. Some of them I do not have. So we're just going to start from the top, what I read first, and go to the bottom. So this is in that order of how I read them. So the first book that we're going to talk about is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. So this book I completely picked up on a whim because I just happened to be in Walmart and I saw this really pretty edition of the book. I loved the sprayed edges because they look very bloody, and that's a weird thing to say. I mean, it's a thriller, so you know what I'm saying? It just kind of fits the vibe. But anyways, there's also this bloody handprint on the cover, and I just love this edition. So I'd seen the book around and I'd heard mostly good things about it. I don't read a ton of thrillers, but I do enjoy a lot of the ones that I read. And I'd never read anything by Geneva Rose. So I was like, okay, this is a VHS tape. It's supposed to have 90s vibes. And I knew it was about the siblings whose mother had passed away and they were going through all of her things and they found this VHS tape, home video type situation that has a secret on it that might include a murder. So it's also really short. So I knew I had to pick this one up. I did read it this month and I ended up giving it 4 stars. So for me, I feel like it was a very quick read. I really liked Geneva Rose's writing, but I don't think I was very invested. The depth for me wasn't there. It was just a light, fun, if you consider murder fun, but a light, fun. I know it's not a popcorn thriller. It's not like that, but it just was easy breezy, a good time. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't anything deep. I wasn't super invested in the characters or the story, but I was curious and I wanted to know what was going on and I had a really good time with it. And I did enjoy the ending, what you find out. I did kind of see the main twist, I guess, coming, whodunit. I saw that coming. It wasn't really rocket science to me, but there were some elements of the story that I really enjoyed. So I did end up giving this one 4 stars, and I would recommend it if you're looking for a good summary thriller. Next up, I read The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This was not originally on my TBR for July, but I wanted to read it because my friend Gwen from Gwendolyn Kinsinger hosts a book club. Well, this isn't even part of her book club, but she has a Patreon through her podcast, Talk Bookish to Me. She does host a book club monthly through that, but she also has been doing different read-alongs. So she just finished up the Hunger Games read-along that she was doing, and so now she is doing one for the Inheritance Games. And I wasn't initially planning on reading this, but I found the audio for it and I thought I'll just listen to it. I got it from the library and I enjoyed it okay, but honestly, it wasn't my favorite thing. I do feel like this is a situation where the book was really overhyped in my opinion. I thought it was fine, but also something to know about me is I don't love YA. I like YA romantasy and sometimes YA romance, but I'm not a huge fan of YA anything else or YA thrillers. I've actually tried a few YA thrillers, one of them being the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson, and I didn't love that. There's just something about them that just doesn't do it for me. It's too, okay, this is gonna sound so contradictory, but I just said this was really easy breezy. And I liked that this was easy breezy, but I didn't like that the Inheritance Games was easy breezy. I almost wanted more. It felt more middle grade than YA to me at times. And so that's why it was weird that there's this love triangle going on. Cause I was this doesn't even read like a YA. It reads like a middle grade, but then it also has YA elements. And I don't know. I will just say that the highlight of the book for me was, I think her name was Maddie or Madison, whatever the best friend character's name was. She was hilarious and she was the highlight of the book for me. Everything else was just mid for me, so I gave this 3 stars. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I'm not invested, and I won't be continuing in the series, unfortunately. The next book that I tried to read was supposed to be a buddy read with Jordan and Hannah, and they both finished it but didn't like it, which is why I DNF'd Bookshop by the Sea by Denise Hunter. I did not get very far in this at all. I think I got like 60 to 70 pages in, and I just didn't really love the writing. I didn't really love the story, and I just don't know if Denise Hunter is going to be the author for me. She writes Christian fiction, Christian romance, but I've always heard kind of mixed things about her. I feel like she's a very mid author. Now that's what I've heard. Do I know? No. Is this personal? No. But I just don't know if I want to give her another chance or not. I've heard some of her newer releases are a little bit better, so maybe again in the future, but I'm kind of sad about this one. This had such a cute, fun summary cover, and it just did not. Is it going to focus on the book? Is it focusing on the book? I don't know. I'm using my front-facing camera because, like I said, we're lazy today, but I don't know. I was disappointed. Then I had a really big surprise. So I was a co-host for the Comfy Cozy Book Club, which is hosted by Hannah from the Teacher's TBR. She asked me and Yvette from Leave Race Adores to co-host with her for her first kickoff month of the Comfy Cozy Book Club. And the book club pick was The Secret Book and Scone Society by Ellery Adams. Y'all, I had no idea if this was going to be a good book for me or not. This book has been on my shelves for 2 years, and I've wanted to read it, but honestly, I don't really know. Okay, I say I don't know why I didn't pick it up. I really don't know why, but if I think about why, I think it's because I read Crime and Poetry by Amanda Flower, and the book synopses sound kind of similar. But let me tell you right now, this is not the same as that book, and they are both favorites of mine for 2 totally different reasons. So this book takes place in Miracle Springs, and it follows Nora, who is a bookshop owner in the town. She has a past that you don't really know about until you get to the end of the book. You can kind of pick up on clues. And she meets a few women in this town who also are very broken and damaged, but they are seeking healing in Miracle Springs. That's kind of why people come to this town. Each of them befriends each other, and they start to share secrets. They create the Secret Book and Scone Society. One of them gets in a little bit more trouble than the others. They're all trying to solve a murder. They're all very different characters, and I just love that. I love how realistic this book seemed in so many areas. And I know this is pitched as a cozy mystery, but I do want to say to tread lightly, because this isn't going to be your like comfy, cozy mystery. It is going to be a little bit more, I don't want to say gritty because that's not the right word, but obviously you're dealing with women in here who are very broken and damaged. They have past, they have hard things that have made them who they are today, and maybe they have traits that they have now because of things in their past that may not be somebody you want to read about, but like you understand and empathize with them because of that. So for me, I loved the characters. More than anything, I was in this for the characters, not for the murder mystery. Yes, I thought that was good, but I was really in it for the characters. And I do feel like I'm like that with a lot of cozy mysteries, but especially this one. It was so good. I'm definitely continuing in the series. I'm so glad that Hannah picked this book. I know it was a little bit like, we didn't know at first how it was going to go, because some people had started reading it and were like DNFing it or giving it 2 stars. And the reason why is because there is one character in this book that is a little bit more promiscuous, and she has like there are suggestive comments made, and there is like one scene specifically in chapter 6 that is borderline SA, but it doesn't go all the way there. So just in case you need to know that. But it's that's it. Like after that, it's fine. It's easy breezy sailing. I mean, kind of. It's still like a deep story, but I don't know. I just feel like it was worth it, and it really gripped my heart, and I absolutely loved it. So, okay, I'm going to stop gushing now. Next up, I read Becoming Elizabeth Elliot by Ellen Vaughn. This was for my Revive Christian Book Club. This month was the nonfiction pick, and I actually let everyone vote on what book we wanted to read this month, and I was really surprised a biography got picked, but I know a lot of people really love Elizabeth Elliot and her husband Jim and their story of their trek into Ecuador as missionaries, and Jim and a bunch of his missionary buddies went out to witness to this tribe of headhunters. This is a literally naked tribe, cut off from society, cut off from humans. They don't like anybody else to come in, but Jim and this group of missionaries were going to witness to them and tell them about Jesus. and they thought they were getting somewhere, but then they end up getting massacred. And instead of Elizabeth having this vengeance and hardened heart toward these people, she ends up going back to these people, sharing the love of Jesus with them. And because of her kindness and her forgiveness, and because obviously of the love of Jesus, these people got to know him too. So that is what she is most well known for. But this tells her life story from the time she was a baby up until like after the massacre and things that happened after. And I know there is a follow-up to this called Being Elizabeth Elliot, which I probably will not read because unfortunately I only gave this book 2 stars. And I don't like to always rate nonfiction or biographies or anything like that. But for me, this story, I feel like Ellen Vaughn almost did Elizabeth Elliot an injustice because this story took on a very somber and depressed tone. And I almost feel like, I know that there are some small theological differences between myself and Elizabeth Elliot, and it did kind of seem like at times she just was not, she didn't feel like redeemed and she didn't feel free to me. She almost felt like she was just like sitting in this pit of despair and that she didn't walk in the victory that Jesus had given her. And like, I don't know, it just felt very somber. But I do think, and the reason I say that, there was journal entries and things from Elizabeth and Jim, and they, I mean, if you think about when you journal and when you write, a lot of times you're writing your sorrows. You're writing like not the pretty pinned up pieces of your life. So I almost feel like those should not have been shared. But then also, like, I think Ellen Vaughn just kind of painted Elizabeth Elliot in a darker light. Not like she, I've heard, now I don't know if this is true, but a friend told me that she had done some research on this book and that Ellen Vaughn supposedly didn't even like Elizabeth Elliot. So I'm like, why are you writing a biography about her, you know? So I don't know. I just wish that I would have read one of Elizabeth Elliot's books that she wrote on her own versus reading a biography written about her by someone who potentially didn't even like her. So that's my 2 cents. I did think there were some quotable moments in here. I do think Elizabeth and Jim's stories are both inspiring, but I honestly wish that I only had in my head what I knew before I read this book. The next book is going to be like the most exciting book I talk about because I have 2 more after this, but this is going to be the one I gush about. So this was my favorite book that I read this month. Hi, Jovi. Are you joining the party? This little one got shots today. It's her yearly shots, and I always hate doing that, but you know, we gotta do what we gotta do to keep the baby safe, right? Yeah, that's what we gotta do. Anyways, I feel like this book is so special on so many different spectrums. One, y'all, you're like, what is it? But some of y'all know what it is already. It was such a good book. I already love this author. I got a great reading experience with it, as well as like being able to discuss it with some of my best friends and having book club around it. So that book is The Summer of Yes by Courtney Walsh. You all already know that Courtney Walsh is one of my all-time favorite authors. Actually, she is my all-time favorite author. She has topped Sally Hepworth for me. I still love and adore Sally Hepworth, but Courtney Walsh just writes my perfect book every time. Now, this book is a little different than what I typically enjoy by her. So usually I will like her rom-coms. This is my 5th book by her, and this is more of a contemporary women's fiction, inspirational type story with some romance sprinkled in. But this was so good. If it's not already evidenced by the amount of tabs that I put in this book. I don't know if this is, it always tries to focus on me, but you can see the tabs. There's a lot of tabbies. I loved it. And also, like I said, I got to read this with some friends. So I did a little bit of scrapbooking in here. I had all the girls sign my book. We put some little quotes from our trip because we did all get to meet up and like have in-person book club with this book. But let me tell you a little bit about this story. So this follows Kelsey and Georgina, and Kelsey is involved in an accident at the beginning of the story that lands her in the hospital, and she happens to share a hospital room with Georgina Tate, who is this cosmetics mogul. She is a very important lady. She is a little bit like Meryl Streep's character from The Devil Wears Prada. She's very standoffish. She's very like sassy. She's very much the epitome of the old people that feel like they can say whatever they want and they can get away with it. And I love that about her. I know that some people didn't like her character at first or in general at all because she is very stubborn and she's very strong-willed and she's very opinionated and all the things. But I just found her character very endearing and I loved her character growth, even though it did take some time. But honestly, I understand the stubbornness and I understand how shame can keep you in your stubbornness for a lot longer than you should be there. So Anyways, I digress. So Kelsey meets Georgina, and they are both very career-driven, workaholic women. And Kelsey ends up asking Georgina, like, hey, you did all these things in life. Was it worth it? And she kind of senses that it really wasn't for Georgina, that there's a lot more to her than on the surface, and that maybe she missed some things in life. And Kelsey doesn't want that to be her life. So she challenges Georgina to have a summer of yes with her, for them to go on these different adventures and say yes to things as small as eating a soft pretzel and as big as traveling across the country to make amends with family members. So this was just so powerful and so good, and I got a lot out of it. When I started, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to relate to the characters, but I knew I was still going to love it because I love Courtney Walsh and the stories that she weaves. But I did end up relating to the characters, and I realized there are things in life that I don't say yes to, and there are things in life that I could change and I could do better, and that I could, I don't know, like it was very inspirational. But not only that, there was a romance in here between Georgina and her husband that I found to be so endearing and so wonderful, and an excellent example of the love of Jesus for us. And that is what I love about Courtney Walsh. She used to write Christian fiction, but now she writes more just like general fiction, but she still weaves her faith throughout it. And I love how you can tell that when you read her books, and that is really what hits home for me every single time. Now, I will say, if you are looking for a really deep personal story, you might get that, but Courtney Walsh is more well known for writing the easy breezy stories, the ones that are always going to have a happy ending. There's not going to be a lot of conflict. When there is conflict, it's going to be very short-lived, because she wants to give you a good time and a happy story. And I do think if you look for it, you can still find depth there, because I always do with her books. But just know this isn't going to be like a super deep, heavy story. I mean, there's parts of that, but she is very much the light author that I really love. So I love it, and this is a book that I can recommend anybody to read, and I hope you love it as much as I did. We only have 2 more books. The next one is going to be Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. What was I so excited? I think I was like mid-excited about this book, because I was going to wait until I heard reviews about it before I got it, because I was a little hesitant about getting it. And a really weird reason why I was hesitant is that this is his first male main character. I don't know why that matters, but like all of his other books have been female main characters. So why this was a male main character, like why do I care? Like I've read plenty of books with male main characters that have been great. So why, I don't know why that was in my head. I was like, oh, well, maybe he's going to write it different because it's a male main character. Like, I don't know what was going through my head. But anyways, that was my hesitancy at first. And then also the synopsis just didn't sound great to me, because it just sounded like a cliche suburban thriller. And it also sounded a little bit like too close to home, because I like his more far-fetched thrillers, or the ones where I don't feel like anything could happen in my area or to me or anything like that. I like the ones that are in settings or places or with people that isn't so close to home, So that was my hesitancy. And then I started seeing reviews come in that were kind of mixed. But I did see people saying that it was more slow-paced, like a mystery, and I do love a good mystery novel, so I was like, that's fine. And then people were saying it was giving Stranger Things vibes, and I was like, okay. So I got it, and I was going to read it for the Sleep When I'm Dead at book club, because Jesse picked this for book club discussion for the month of July, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to get it and read it. And y'all, I was 151 pages in, and it just wasn't doing it for me. And I felt like it wasn't worth me finishing. So Riley Sager has really been a hit or miss author for me, because I do have 3 books by him that I've read that have been 5 stars. The Last Time I Lied, The Only One Left, and Home Before Dark. I also read Lock Every Door and gave it 4 stars, but I've now DNF'd Middle of the Night, Survive the Night, and what was the other one? Final Girls. I know the ending of all of them, and I stand by my decision to DNF all of them, because I did not like them, and I know some people do, and that's okay. Everybody has their own opinion. I'm not saying they're bad books. I mean, this one though, I really don't think Riley Sager wrote this, but I don't know, y'all. It just was different. I just was not intrigued at all by this story. I just did not care, so I DNF'd it. And the last book that I read this month was just a really random one that I was trying to fill in a summer bingo board for. So I listened to the audio for Before the Ever After by Jacqueline Woodson. This is a story about this young boy whose father plays football in the NFL, and he ends up, I think the dad is in his 30s, and he starts experiencing like headaches and memory loss and different stuff like that. And this takes place in the late 90s. I think it was in 1999. And during this time, there was not a correlation between CTE and football. So the little boy's dad had CTE. He ends up, at this time, they didn't know that's what it was because there wasn't a correlation back then, which I'm like, why? Why was there not? It's so obvious if you're getting hit in the head this many times that that's probably going to give you brain damage. But I think it was probably because this was like the great American sport, football, you know, and we don't want to like say anything bad about that or stop it altogether. So we're just going to pretend like these injuries are not a result of that. But back in those days, doctors just did not know that there was that correlation. And so they really didn't know what was wrong with this kid's dad. But you get to see his decline and you see how that affects the boy in his life. And this is also a novel written in verse, and I think that I've really enjoyed some novels written in verse, but I don't know that this story resonated with me in the way that I wished it would have because it was written in verse. It didn't go as deep for me, but I did feel bad for the boy, and just like I would anybody that goes through this. And it also made me think more about football players, and I got curious, and I was like, I wonder how many people have been diagnosed with CTE in the NFL. And I looked it up, and it was like 340 something out of 370 something deceased NFL players were diagnosed with CTE. That is a lot. I mean, and they can't really tell until I think after you've passed. But I was like, why? Why are people playing football? Like, I like to watch football, fine, but like, why are people playing football? Like, I would not want my husband, my son, my family, like that's such, and I know it's mostly like if you're doing it your whole life, if you've done it as a kid, you go through middle school, high school, college, NFL, by that point, you're probably going to experience some brain damage. But just to think about that many people who've passed, it's just, it's wild to me. But anyways, that's what this story was about. I thought it was okay. I am appreciative of the education that it gave me on CTE and football players, but I just didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to. There were like a couple of little moments that I thought were good, a couple little quotes that hit my heart, but overall it was just okay for me, and I gave it 2 stars. And those are all the books that I read in July. Like I said, I did not read as much in July. It was a very busy month for me, so hopefully I will pick back up a little bit in August. I'm already doing a pretty good job, so hopefully it will stay that way. But yeah, you'll have to let me know what your favorite book was that you read in the month of July down in the comments. But if you don't have anything else to say, I would love if you would leave me a car emoji down below, because 1, I took a trip this month, and 2, this book involves a trip and it's got a car on it and I want you to read it. So please leave me a car emoji down below in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, friends.